should Star Wars be a franchise? And Make will ask, why now, after like 40 plus years of this being a franchise, you could say? Why am I asking this question now? Well, I'm kind of wondering because with Disney Plus, there's a lot of shows coming out revolving around Star Wars, and there has been. And with Marvel making all their Disney Plus shows, and it's just a lot, especially with some movies, I question whether Star Wars should be in the same vein as what Marvel is doing, and I don't think so. I mean, luckily they're not really making any movies, so it's not that bad, but when they start doing it again, whenever they're going to, because they still have yet to make a Star Wars film since 2019, but eventually they're going to, and I don't think it's going to be that bad, considering they only make one movie a year, rather than Marvel, which makes 3 and like 6 shows in the same year, which is a lot. But I'm comparing the two because Marvel can do that because they're based off of comic books where there is already established lore. All these characters already exist. It's more bringing them into the mainstream in movies, shows, whatnot. Both Star Wars, everything is made up. Star Wars is a completely made up franchise that doesn't exist prior to it releasing in 1977. There's nothing that came before that. Nothing. There's no original version of Star Wars. What Star Wars is the original. And so it's like this weird thing of, should this be a franchise to continue for decades like Marvel is right now, with many movies, many shows? And yes, no, because for a lot of people, Star Wars is the original 6 movies that George Lucas created. That is Star Wars. That's what the main thing that everyone should watch is, what it is. All the main points in the franchise are in those 6 films. And a lot of it is essentially just revolving around those 6 films. Like, there is no new era, really. Everything's in between the films. And even with the sequel trilogy, that is just an extension of the original trilogy. And no, I'm not saying that it's a remake, because yes, the sequel trilogy, with its flaws, doesn't really have a defined era. Yes, it is in a new era, but it's not well defined. And I would assume eventually that will be covered. Eventually will be something related to that era, maybe with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, eventually, because all the shows that are coming out have all been revolved around the original trilogy stuff, in between the 6 George Lucas films. And that could say, well, Star Wars can't really be a franchise that can go on forever, because there's only so much you can do within the the 40 in-universe years or whatever. You gotta remember, Star Wars is just one movie, then it turned into a trilogy, then a saga, then a franchise. So with Disney, it's like, well, they would have to create more eras to create. Now, the only thing that Disney Star Wars has that's in the same vein as Marvel with the comic books is the EU, or the Legends stuff. I'm surprised they've not brought back more stuff from Legends into canon, like certain characters like Starkiller or the Old Republic. Because if they were to do the same thing that Marvel does, that would actually be really good for like Star Wars as a whole. Bringing stuff back in a different way, obviously, but still having the same characters and plot points, I guess, covered just in a different way. But that's not what Disney Star Wars is really doing, at least not now, at least I'm not aware of, because they have their High Republic era instead of the Old Republic, which is essentially, I guess, the same thing except more closer to the timeline, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but it's just, it's in comic book format rather than video game format. And a lot of stuff that people want are from the Legend stuff, from old EU, and could be told. A new era of Star Wars could literally happen with a new movie franchise with the Old Republic. You can make like an entire saga off the Old Republic. But are they? No. because that's something that people have already seen already, which is disappointing. And I wish that they didn't have that mentality, because I would like to see the Old Republic. I never really had a chance to play the games. I don't know what consoles they're on, but having it seen in a movie format would be cool. I get they're making a time on the Mandalorian stuff and that type of stuff, which is fine. But if you want to continue on with the films, there's an idea. Lucasfilm, you're listening. If you want to continue the franchise, there's one or two things you can do. One, make a saga with the Old Republic stuff. Or two, get creative people to make the next era after the Rise of Skywalker. What is next in the Star Wars timeline after that film? Because there's nothing after that point. Now, it'd be such a cool thing to see. But you need people who are actually creative, like George Lucas for the prequel trilogy, to make a completely different world and timeline. Just different era, is what I'm trying to say, for that. Like with the prequel trilogy, how that is so different from everything else. But that's my suggestion. Or you can go the more easier route and make an Old Republic saga. 5, 6 films with the Old Republic stuff, taking characters from there, taking the events from the games, and making them into films. Compressing the stories into 2-hour films for 5 to 6 films. Or maybe a trilogy. It could be whatever. But that would be cool. A lot of people don't know about the Old Republic stuff because they're video games from decades ago. People probably forgot about them. But there's still a hardcore audience for that would go and pay money to see a film loosely adapting that. But that's all I got for this video. I've been thinking about this for a while now, and it's kind of a two-sided argument. Should Star Wars be a franchise? I kind of delved into it can, because I think that Star Wars can be a franchise, because George Lucas created this thing, and there's a lot of wiggle room for this world, because Star Wars is a sandbox that anyone can use. You can create any story you want that can go on forever. So, yeah, Star Wars can be a franchise, and I gave several reasons how it can expand, how the next decade of content could be. But Lucasfilm, are you listening? Probably not. You don't care about random people on the internet. Maybe that's for a good thing, but I'm going to end it there. If you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe. I'm going to go now, so goodbye, everyone.